This is Scott the Fix-It Guy. Our goal with our videos is to empower you to be able to do the repairs on your own and save a whole lot of money and also get that great feeling of having fixed it by yourself. Today we have a Bosch washing machine where the motor's getting tired. It's not spinning very fast, barely agitates. So we're going to be replacing the motor brushes. We've removed the back panel, have it unplugged, just pop the belt off. Now I'm going to be pulling this motor modular connector off. Kind of hard to get a good grip on it, but basically want to pull it out toward the front of the washer, and then you have to pull off this
number 10
little ground connection too. We're putting a 10 millimeter socket and just using a screwdriver to push off that ground connector. I'm going to zip off these two bolts holding it in 10 millimeter. And then I'll grab the motor and I'm going to kind of wiggle it and pull toward me. I'm going to grab the front and the back and wiggle and pull. There it came right out. Might take a little bit of force. And then I have one little zip tie I've got to snip off. I'm going to use some diagonal pliers to snip it off. It's holding the wires to the motor. And now, got that off, now I can get the motor out from the washer and I can replace the brushes, carbon brushes. So I'm going to use a little screwdriver to try to take the spade connector off the end of the brush. You could use a pair of needle nose pliers would work too. Once you get that off, then you can slide the brass piece here that's connected to a spring that's connected to the carbon brush, and you can pull it right out. Here's a new set of brushes here. These are really cheap. You can get them at Amazon. It's like about $21.75. And these are original OEM, which is probably the best ones to get. So we're going to grab the new brush, and then it goes in a certain way. If you look at it, it has a kind of an angle grinded onto it, and you want to get that angle to go in the correct way. If it goes in the wrong way, it won't really make good contact with the commutator, which is the round part that it touches. So you can see in the video, I'm just making sure I got it at the right angle. Put that all the way in. And this is kind of the tricky part, and the British call it the fiddly part, where you want to take the spring. I'm just spinning the spin basket too because it was making kind of a weird whiny noise. So I want to see if it's the motor or the spin basket. But I'm going to push the spring into this little brass cylinder. I actually went outside so I'd have better daylight. Once I have it all the way in, I'm going to push this brass piece back into the brass cylinder, and then I'll hold it with the screwdriver and put the spade connector back on, and that one's all done. I'll flip it over. Now I have to remove the spade connector from the old brush, and I'm going to give it a little pop with my palm to knock it off. There we go. And then I'll slide out this brass piece out of the cylinder, lift up, and then I can pull it right out. There we go. So these brushes were not worn very far. You can compare the new one and the old one, not much difference at all. But this one was making a really loud whining noise that was not coming from the spin basket or the rear bearing, but coming from the motor. So when we put the new brushes in, it actually solved the problem. So I'm going to push the brush all the way in, as far as it'll go, and then I'm going to do that weird fiddly part that takes the most patience. I'm going to just put that spring all the way down into that brass cylinder. Just be patient, go a little bit at a time. And once you get the spring all the way in, you're going to put the brass piece into the brass cylinder, and then you're going to push down the front of it and then push it all the way in, and then you can add the spade connector back into position. This is the only tricky part, is getting that spring to go back in, because it'll want to keep popping out. It does really help to do it in a lot of light. I think outdoors would be great, or the brightest indoor light you can get, just so you can see better. Get the spring all the way in. Now I'm just putting that brass piece in correctly. Put the spade connector on. That's all done. So I'll take it all inside and then put it back into the machine. I'm just looking at the old brush. Looks pretty good, but it was making a lot of noise, really high-pitched squeal. When you first put in the new brushes, the first couple of cycles will give you kind of a loud squealy sound, but it'll get less and less each cycle. So I'm crawling back in behind the washing machine, put all my equipment down, and then I'm going to grab the back panel also, because I got to put that back on, get that ready. And I'm going to kind of sit down here behind the washing machine, and I'm going to put the motor back into position. So I'll slide it underneath, and I'm going to push it up to engage the 4 lugs that are holding it to the tub. And then once I get them in position, I'll push the motor back in toward the front of the washer. There we go. It's locked in. And I'll add those bolts back in with my 10mm socket. There we go. And then I'll just reach around and grab that electrical connector, put it back in. Do make sure that you have this pushed in all the way. So once you get it in position, push it a few more times. Make sure you really get it before you put on the back panel. So there's the ground connector, the earth connector back on. Modular connectors in. I'm going to put the belt back on. I'm going to put it over the little motor pulley first, and then I'll start it on the big pulley, and then as I turn the pulley, it'll self-feed. It'll stretch it and feed it right on. There we go. I'll spin it a couple times. Okay, everything's set. I'll put the back panel back on, and all I need to do with the back panel is just lift it into position. It has little hooks that hold it up, and then I have to add all the screws back in. And that did the trick. It actually got rid of a lot of the squeal, and every cycle it got less and less. So really good power, and back to running good and back to being quiet. So thanks so much for watching. Hope this helps you with your Bosch. And please subscribe when you get a chance so we can send you lots more videos on how to repair your home appliances. Thanks again for watching.